Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher to walk you through today's 6-game slate. It's a week filled with these types of 6, 7, 8-game slates. It's not the really big slates, not the really small slates. So we'll probably have a little bit more of a consistent routine here. You'll have me for the first 3 days of the week, and then we'll tag team it with some other ETR personalities here with Mike Gallagher and Justin Fan, of course, on Fridays. Mike, how are you on this fine Monday?
Doing good. Yeah, a lot of hot awards talk out in the streets, which I'm obsessed with. We talked about that on the pod we just recorded. So, got some bets over there for you guys. We know I think there's some good value to make. There's not value on IQ anymore, that's for sure. But excited to talk a lot of. This is where we live, man. I love this. A lot of questionable tags. This is where separate the men from the boys for analysis. But we're gonna get a lot of this going forward as the season's winding down.
There are a lot of questionable tags, but let's start without any questionable tags. No questionable tags for the Boston Celtics. Just a lot of out tags. No Al Horford, no Jason Tatum, no Robert Williams. Jaylen Brown listed available here after the double overtime heartbreaker to the Knicks last night. They traveled to Cleveland, so road back-to-back after huge minutes for all these guys last night. You can see Grant Williams 44, Jaylen Brown 47, Marcus Smart 39. These are going to be key players tonight with the Celtics shorthanded. How do you expect them to line up, and who do you expect to benefit most from a DFS perspective?
Definitely going to be a lot of Jaylen Brown, but they'll have pretty much the starting lineup of Derek White, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown. I think it'd be Grant Williams. And then I think it'll be Muscala. We know they usually go to Blake Griffin in this spot a lot, so it could be him. I definitely think they would be going big overall. They wouldn't do something crazy like, Grant at the 5, something along those lines. So I would lean that way. Could be Hauser sneaking in there instead of Grant. They maybe like him off the bench, but it's very uncertain. I think it would still be Muscala, but they could definitely go to Blake. There's comments from Joe Mazzulla saying he's like earned it as a team leader, et cetera, et cetera. But either way, I think Muscala is in a pretty good spot today, even though the matchup sucks.
Thankfully, first game of the night, so we should get clarity on the starting lineup in advance of lock there. In terms of minutes expectations, do you think there will be any limitations associated with Jaylen Brown tonight? The game went from a 3.5-point spread to like 8 or 9, kind of jumped on the news pretty immediately. So there is some blowout risk here, but do you think there would be any sort of cap on Jaylen on the high end, given he played 47 minutes last night?
I think so. There could be a little bit of a cap. He's generally played a lot, and should note, when he's returned from injury, they play him a ton. So
yeah,
don't feel too strongly about that. I think he has a chance to get maybe mid 30s if the game's close.
Okay. Let's move into the questionable tags on the other side of this game. Donovan Mitchell is questionable here. Reportedly went through shoot around today. Have you been on the jersey watch, the starters jersey watch today, Mike? What's your update on the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight?
I have to do that right now, but I think Mitchell's playing. There were some comments from after the game, Bickerstaff saying that he wasn't too concerned about the finger injury, so going through shoot around, think he should be back. I would expect him to start, get pretty full minutes, and tougher matchup, going to get a lot of wing defense. He's actually been very good against the Celtics as well, so would be in play. Obviously, if he's out, would be Karis LeVert stepping into the first unit, picking up a pretty big role. He's started a bunch there. And then obviously Darius Garland would be in an even better position.
Yeah, it's the Cavs were in an interesting spot at the trade deadline where it seemed like they might kind of be able to coast from a seeding perspective, and because there's a separation between the top 3 teams in them, and then a separation and it looks like Brooklyn would fall down. Here come the Knicks, 9 in a row, and right on the heels of Cleveland now. So a lot of incentive for Cleveland to keep winning games, get that home court advantage in that first round. I think we see Donnie out there tonight. Another questionable tag.
No note on his jersey status. Usually one of their beats shares that, but he did not. Okay. We do not have pictures yet. But sounds like he's going to be good to go.
Okay. Back-to-back for Indiana here. They get a nice win in Chicago yesterday. Tyrese Halliburton, cold-blooded pull up from about 30 to win the game there. Gets the questionable tag today, along with Aaron Nesmith, who missed yesterday. We've talked about Haliburton's ability to play through these questionable tags in the past. We've also talked about Indiana being a team that seemingly might not have as much to play for, but here they are. They're just a game and a half out of the play-in. Any leans on Tyrese Haliburton's availability tonight?
I was expecting the questionable tag, but I think he's going to play. This is obviously tied to being in a little bit of a strain from the calf thing, so we'll see. Probably gonna be game time. Obviously, if he's out, probably going to go to George Hill again. After we saw that last week, that was quite a decision point, but that would obviously benefit. Well, maybe it won't because Andrew Nembhard has been really bad with his shot lately. Certainly, TJ McConnell will be in play, but yeah, first game of the day, so we should get that.
Okay, let's move to Philadelphia, where PJ Tucker and Tobias Harris are both listed questionable tonight. No Joel Embiid on the injury report, though, so we get to celebrate that, right? It's no more Joel Embiid questionable. It's just Tobias and PJ Tucker here. Tobias with a left calf contusion, PJ Tucker with back spasms. Any news or notes on the 76ers?
Yeah, Doc Rivers said he's not expecting Tobias and PJ Tucker to play today. So we'll see. This is Doc Rivers, who doesn't know the status of his own players. So take that with a big old grain of salt. But certainly sounds like Tucker's a little bit more unlikely based on some commentary from Rivers saying how much in pain he was after the game. So certainly if one of them's going to be out, you know the four are going to be Harden, Embiid, D'Anthony Melton, and Tyrese Maxey. And then the fifth, I would lean Jalen McDaniels if they're both out. Certainly has kind of picked up some key minutes down the stretch. I think they would trust him over George Niang, who was out of the rotation. So I think they're comfortable there. So I feel pretty good about that being the starting lineup. And yeah, I would say Tucker is much less likely than Tobias, who's been playing through this calf thing for a little bit.
Let's move to the Detroit Pistons at home against Portland tonight. Detroit's injury report is littered with information on the outside of things. Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart, and Bojan Bogdanovic. On the questionable side of things, Killian Hayes, Rodney McGruder, and James Weissman. So help us sort through who is potentially going to be available for Detroit and what different iterations we might see from a starting lineup.
Yeah, this is wild. So it sounds like Killian Hayes, just a hand contusion, so probably going to start. And then obviously you got him and Ivy in the backcourt. I would assume Livers is going to get one of those starting spots regardless, whether it's Weissman playing the 5 or the 4. I think Livers has got that spot secure. And then obviously if Weissman is out, and then say Magruder's in, they'd probably go that way. He certainly could get away going smaller against Portland. So yeah, I would assume if everybody is in, then it's Killian, Jaden, Livers. Then we saw the Bagley at the 4, Weissman at the 5 lineup. I think they would run that back. We saw OG Yuri pick up some minutes as well. Then if you're missing Killian, you're probably looking at Rodney McGruder picking up the start there. But yeah, there's so many things to go through here with this. But first game of the day too.
Yeah, and we're starting to see that time of the year for Detroit. Buddy Boeheim minutes, Eugene Omoyori picked up off waivers basically and immediately thrown in. Jared Roden minutes. There's a lot for Detroit here. And as you've alluded to, even though I keep stressing that the overall percentages are the same for the top 3 teams, the pecking order does matter in terms of if you get jumped, you're still the team that is kind of next highest and you're guaranteed. Is it a top 5 pick or is it top 4 if you're the worst team overall?
It'd be they draw the top 4, so it'd be worst you could do is move down to 5.
Okay. Yeah. So there is some incentive there as Victor Wembanyama has just become a Houston Rocket in Gallagher's simulation.
I love this. Yep.
I spend at least once a day on Tankathon just simulating and just hoping that the Bulls could be interesting again and the pick won't go to Orlando. And it rarely. There it is. As we talk about it. We talk about it, that is the simulation that I need to have any hope of being a Bulls fan in the future. All right, let's move to the Portland side of things just real quickly. Nothing on their injury report except Ryan Arcidiacono, but still no Yusuf Nurkic, no Anthony Simons. There's no questionable tags here. There's just a bunch of outs. Arcidiacono, one of the newer ones, but Nurkic and Simons and Justice Winslow is still out for Portland. Have you heard any sort of timetables associated with Nurkic or Simons that could help illuminate when we will see Portland back to full health?
I mean, Nurk's starting to do on-court stuff. I want to say about a week and a half ago. So I think Nurk's got a chance. As someone who has been streaming Trendon Watford like a lot in season-long leagues, he's been pretty good. But yeah, I think he's getting close. Simons sounds like the ankle injuries wasn't as bad as the first time, which I would pretty much agree with. So I think he's got a shot to return pretty soon. So maybe at some point later this week they get one or both those guys back. Should note, kind of low key. I guess it's kind of high key, but Cam Reddish has picked up a really big ball handling role. He's been the second unit point guard, basically. He's had like 4.5 minutes of touch time in the last 2 games. That's really high for a guy like that. So they're letting him handle the ball and push the offense. Certainly one of the best matchups you can get against really poor perimeter defense, rim funnel as well. So definitely Cam Reddish is a guy I'm kind of into today. Obviously, Dame is obviously an absurd matchup cover boy.
I was also going to say, I wonder if it's a spot where they look to lighten the load on Dame a little bit. He's just been carrying such a heavy load, and if you don't need it at all tonight against Detroit by some way, stretch or form, you might see more shot opportunities for like Jeremy Grant, Cam Reddish, some of these guys. And at least early in the game, you might see Dame defer a little bit more. I'm interested to see because the workload's just been so outrageous, and they could really use any sort of time. Not off, but just like with a more modest, like a 32% usage rate instead of like 40 every game. Yeah. Okay.
I don't think he cares. I mean, and should add, he's shooting 65% on drives. Like his finishing has been so good. Those 100-1 MVP tickets aren't going to win, but it was a good process.
All right, let's move to Denver, where Vlatko Konchar is Q. Thomas Bryant listed probable here. What are your notes on the Nuggets?
Oh, yeah, not too much going on here. Thomas Bryant tweaked his ankle over the weekend. Mike Malone said he's fine. Obviously, the probable tag tells the story there, so expect him to be out there. Don't think the Konchar stuff moves the needle too much. They got kind of enough depth, maybe a little bit more Reggie overlap with Murray, maybe a little bit more Bruce Brown minutes. We've seen Jeff Green step up and play pretty well. He'd be filling most of those minutes as well. So, not too big of a deal there. Tough matchup for Toronto. Denver's offense is really good. So you're not going to be able to kind of run on them because their offense is so fantastic. But was considering betting the Nuggets today, but I'm probably just going to wait for it to go live and hopefully get a little bit of value there.
All right, let's move to New Orleans, where Jonas Valanciunas is questionable. Still no Josh Richardson, no Larry Nance. We've talked about the Pelicans' depth being tested of late. Joe Val missed last game with this left calf contusion, which we thought was like, a contusion, like not as big of a deal, but he's missed a couple of games here. What are your thoughts on his availability tonight in a matchup where they certainly could use his size against Domantas Sabonis and the Kings?
Yeah, I think he's got a good shot to play. You mentioned missing this much time for a calf contusion is a little odd, but still no Jay Rich, so you'll be getting another Trey Murphy start as well. But yeah, I think Joe Val will be back. That would obviously really push down Billy Hernan-Gomez. We saw Hernan-Gomez being kind of a DNP-CD at times. Against the Kings team that's going to want to run, so I expect him to go a little bit smaller.
Yeah, would seem likely he might move out of the rotation entirely here. On the Kings side, De'Aaron Fox still listed questionable. It's a different issue though. Before it was the left wrist, now it's left hamstring soreness. Usually when we talk about kinetic chain and different things like impacting one another, it's usually not wrists and hamstrings. So I don't think the two are necessarily related. But what are your thoughts on De'Aaron Fox and the Q tag tonight?
Yeah, hammies are one I'm always cautious on. Listed as soreness, which is good. But yeah, I think he's got a chance to miss. That would certainly mean Davion Mitchell gets the start. Big boost to Malik Monk. Kevin Huerter's also played a little bit better without the Fox game. And then Sabonis would be in a huge spot. Pelicans have the worst defense per possession at the rim. Joe Val going in or out, I don't think it really matters. But yeah, Sabonis, who's been playing a ton of minutes, big role, he'd be benefiting quite a bit.
Yeah, Rashawn Holmes also questionable there. He hasn't really been a part of the rotation, so not a big deal, but potential alternative lack of depth for Sacramento as well. Okay, let's move to the doubtful and outs. We talked about Portland. We talked Jay Rich here with the Pels. Let's talk about the Heat. Kevin Love ruled out tonight, and then a note that Underdog picked up on: Omer Yurtseven listed available to play. He's been playing down in the G League. I know you're tuned into that. What are your thoughts on, do we see Omer Yurtseven leapfrog Cody Zeller into the backup center spot? Or do you think it's just picking up DNP CDs here for Omer?
I'm pretty confident Zeller's got the minutes locked down. He's been playing really well. Got really talked up from Eric Spoelstra after the game. So yeah, I would expect him to pick up the non-BAMs. But nice to see him back after a lengthy absence. But no Kevin Love. So Caleb Martin, who's been playing pretty well off the bench, kind of suddenly he'd be back into the starting lineup there. Then it should be pretty good overall. Maybe helps Oladipo, Strus, and those guys a little bit. But worth noting too, Jamie plays both games in the back-to-back set, played 34 minutes in the back end. Didn't really shoot it too much against DeAndre Hunter defense, but pretty straightforward that I would expect Zeller to be the backup, and then Martin picking up most of this power forward minutes.
Anyone else benefit here without Kevin Love? Does it bleed over into Strus, Oladipo, those guys as well? Or do you think we see some like Haywood Highsmith? Do you think basically they condense the rotation in those Kevin Love minutes, or do you think Highsmith kind of comes in and just soaks up whatever Kevin Love was playing before?
Yeah, I would lean condense. We've seen him like to go 8 all the time. Really big game against the Hawks as well. You can kind of, really put an impact in the standings if you win both these games. So into him, and Bam, just monster game over the weekend. Great matchup. Hawks interior defense has been really bad. So I almost cover Boyd Bam here. I'm excited for what he can do today. We got De'Aaron Fox at shoot around. So that's a good sign he'll be back.
Good to know. Shout out to the underdog team there. And why don't we just transition there, since we've covered all the injuries? Make sure to support the people who are supporting us, the good folks at Underdog Fantasy, who give you those notes with their news team on De'Aaron Fox at shoot around today. They have daily NBA snake drafts for money running edition in many formats of NFL off-season best ball contest for the 2023-2024 season. And then they released the dance, the playoff contest that we love so much. We'll do some content around that with Chris Lafikis, myself, Mike Gallagher, perhaps Justin Fan as well. If you're playing NBA Pick'em, in-season subscribers can use our tool to compare ETR projections to their fantasy Pick'em games. If you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, use promo code ETR for a matching deposit bonus up to $100. It's promo code ETR at underdogfantasy.com. All right. As always, myself and Gary Hartman will be on the live show today behind the paywall at 5 o'clock Eastern time. You can join us there as we break down the 6-game DFS slate, talk about contrarian plays, talk about bad chalk, good chalk, talk about flag plants. Of course, we'll have it all there. Mike Gallagher will be hanging out in chat, giving his thoughts as well. If you, of course, are uninterested in giving us your hard-earned dollars, we do ask for your hard-earned clicks. Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, get notifications whenever we go live. And of course, smash that like button, help feed the algorithm, help us feed our families, and we'll keep feeding you the NBA injury report analysis you need each Monday through Friday. Nom, 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 nom. See you tomorrow.